Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, my name is Haifa Farzana and today I want to talk about books. So I will start off with 912 Batu Road by V.G. Krishnamurti. So this book was published in 2021. I got this book for free back in June when I went to Pavilion Aesop. They were giving out free books written by Malaysian authors, female Malaysian authors, and I'm one of the few lucky ones who managed to grab it. Let's start with the first timeline, 1940s, during the Japanese occupation. Tan Chinam's family are in danger. The Japanese soldiers invaded Malaya and they were on a hunt on Chinese civilians. So, Iyer's family, Rangaswamy Iyer, he hid Tan Chinam's and his family at his house, 912 Batu Road. Because of this incident, these two men and their families became close. And so, we move forward to 2008. In 2008, Gita, granddaughter of Rangaswamy, and Ken, grandson of Tan Chinam, fell in love. However, their family disapproved. This is the start of the conflict of the story. I cannot tell you more, but I can give you a little bit why. Because Ken is Chinese and is not from the Brahmin community. Therefore, you can see that the Rangaswamy's family, they are really strict with their custom, especially with the caste system. And knowing that Gita fell in love with someone outside of their circle, it brought a lot of conflict in their friendships. And that is the main part of the story. Because of Ken and him being Chinese and not part of the Brahmin, the central focus of the story is about the caste system. And I find one quote on page 99 that really makes me ponder about what is going on with this story. I must say the atmosphere was peaceful and the experience pleasant. It was quite amazing that so many of us who were not Christians gathered in the chapel and bowed our heads in prayer, each praying according to our own faiths, yet happy to be where we were. I couldn't help but wonder why we fuss so much about the caste system. People from different races sitting together was a beautiful lesson in humanity. Don't you think so, Appa? That is the main conflict in the story, and I really like it about the social class, and this resonates a lot in our community as well. On to the next book, Sweet Braised Duck by Chu Mi Tan. So this story is set in Singapore, and it's also a historical fiction. And we focus on this Teochew Chinese boy named Kwang who moved to Singapore when he was 5, and this was around 1950s. And when his family moved to Singapore, they believed that they could get a better life out there because in Shantou they were facing a lot of problems, and because of the crops were not heavily produced, so they don't get a lot of income, and they decided to move to Singapore. But just like every other migrant workers who come to another country, it doesn't mean that they will live instantly easy. And this can be proven when Kwang had to stop going to school so he could support his family. Even his father Abe, he worked as a coolie. And throughout this story, it's more about Kwang's growing up, and it parallels to how Singapore changed over the years. And this story, I find this very wholesome because it reminded me a lot on my ancestors as well. While I was reading this, I discussed this a lot with my mother and my aunt about our great-grandfather who migrated to Malaya from Sumatra, and he was only 17. And the first two generations lived in Malaya were not rich, were not well off. Some of our relatives didn't go to school. Some of us grew up poor. It wasn't until my generation we started to live a much better life because our parents managed to pursue their studies and get better job opportunities. But enough about my personal life, but I resonate with these two books because they talk about what is going on in Malaysia as well as in Singapore, and a lot of these books emphasize about familial relationships, and of course with families there are conflicts, but it's what makes it so enduring is because that despite all these tribulations, all this hoo-ha and feud, the family stays together, and I really like that a lot. And I do believe that this kind of books should be promoted more, especially people who wants to know about the minority groups, you know, the Chinese immigrants and the Indian immigrants. And I really recommend starting with this book first because it's pretty simple, straightforward. And then if you're feeling a bit adventurous and reading more about the history, you can start with this because they do mention real life historical figures like Sibyl Katikasu, Chimpang, and Gurchan Singh. Anyway, I recommend this book. I would rate this 5 out of 5. Bye bye.